So earlier today, news came out that Brandon Aiyuk has officially requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. And Colin Cowherd and Nick Wright discussed this recent news on The Herd earlier today, and here's what they had to say.
Requested a trade because they're not, that the Niners and him are far apart. Now, we have talked about this, is that Purdy's not a deep ball thrower. Aiyuk can be a really stretch the field player. That's not what. And again, if Josh Allen's the quarterback, I think you re-sign him. That's part of it. The other thing is, I think McCaffrey and Debo and the two receivers they drafted, Aiyuk's a weird fit for them. It's like we talked about Julius Randle earlier. Really good player, bad fit for the Knicks, don't re-sign him. I think Aiyuk's exceptional. I get this move by the Niners if they moved off him. What's your reaction on this?
My reaction is I think this will hurt Purdy a lot. I think that they've paid everyone, and they are planning, I think, at a year from now to have to pay Purdy. But C-Mac's the most expensive running back in the league. They paid Debo. Trent Williams, the most expensive left tackle in the league. They have Nicky Bosa's contract is unfathomable in the way it's going to kick in shortly. And so I understand you can't, and Kittle makes good money for his position. So you have to pick and choose your spots. But I think this will be very painful for them. Everyone obviously is immediately going to connect him to Washington because of Jaden Daniels. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh because he and Tomlin have kind of been openly flirting, it would seem, about a partnership at some point. So that makes sense. But there's a lot of teams that could use Brandon Aiyuk. I don't know that the Niners would trade with the team they're playing in the NFC Championship game in this clip right here. But the Lions, who still don't really have that wide receiver too and are clearly all in right now, that makes a lot of sense. You would have to think the Buffalo Bills, who right now have a pretty naked wide receiver room, but maybe their hesitancy would be, the Diggs thing didn't end great, and if there are concerns with Aiyuk and paying him. But he is an excellent player that it's going to be hard-pressed to find a team that couldn't use him. And I just don't know if the Niners are going to have a restricted pool of teams they're willing to trade with. But Brandon Aiyuk will get you a first-round pick.
Yes.
And probably a little bit more. He's that type of player, and I imagine he's going to get traded.
All right, so here's the thing right now with this Brandon Aiyuk situation. I think the big thing right now is the fact that Brandon Aiyuk really doesn't have that much leverage. Because after this season, even though it is the final year of Brandon Aiyuk's contract, he's under contract through 2024. The 49ers have the ability to not only franchise tag him after this 2024 season, but they can also franchise tag him once again in 2025. And of course, Brandon Aiyuk, most players in the NFL never want to receive those franchise tags, but teams still have the ability to use that. And so right now, the 49ers honestly aren't in a bad spot when it comes to these negotiations, because it would be one thing if after this season Aiyuk would be a unrestricted free agent with the Niners not having an ability to franchise tag him. But because the 49ers can franchise tag Brandon Aiyuk, I think it gives them a lot more leverage than Aiyuk. And with this 49ers team, while I think that the Niners could decide, okay, well, let's trade him away and get a first-round pick if a team was willing to offer that, because whatever team trades for him is going to have to also give him a massive contract, and so that could limit the draft capital a team wants to give away if they have to pay Aiyuk what he wants, which is maybe around $30 million. The 49ers feel like a team that are still like in a win-now situation, and after this season, they may have to pay Brock Purdy, some of the highest dollars at QB in the NFL. And so I just don't, if the 49ers were going to trade Aiyuk for draft capital, I feel like they would have done it before the draft occurred and gotten a player for this season. Of course, they did draft, Pearsall in the first round, maybe in the situation that things don't work out with Brandon Aiyuk. But I think because the 49ers can franchise tag him, Brandon Aiyuk doesn't have that much leverage. And I honestly don't think a trade is actually going to happen. I think that if Brandon Aiyuk really wants to get traded out of San Francisco, the only thing he can really do is be such a problem in the locker room that it's a net negative for the 49ers to even, keep him around. I'm not sure if it would actually get to that point. But Brandon Aiyuk can't really, I mean, he technically can sit out the 2024 season, but all that would do is hurt him. I'm pretty sure if he doesn't play I think it's 6 or so games in the 2024 season, he doesn't accrue another year. And so he's basically in the same spot next year. And so him sitting out, all it does to Brandon Aiyuk is hurt him probably even more than it would hurt the San Francisco 49ers. And so I wonder if the Niners front office is looking out here and sort of calling his bluff and saying, well, we're going to pay you, which Diane Rossini has said in the past couple of days that the Niners have offered him in the $26 to $7 million, $26 million to $27 million per year range. But Aiyuk seems to want 30 plus in sort of that range that some of these other receivers have gotten. But I think the 49ers, they may be able to stay at that $26, $27 million range and have Aiyuk at the last minute decide to sign a long-term deal. And here's an interesting excerpt I read about this money situation from 49ers Web Zone. They said this: the franchise tag in 2025 is projected to cost $24.76 million, and a 120% pay raise in 2026 would bring the cost to $29.71 million. Averaging this over 3 seasons would amount to approximately $22.9 million annually, which is well below the $26 million per year the 49ers have reportedly offered Aiyuk. So in this scenario, let's say the Niners decide to franchise tag him 2 seasons in a row, they'll get him for $3 million less per year than the $26 million per year deal they offered him. And so I think that's why the 49ers have the leverage, is because they can use that tag and get him for even cheaper than what they've already offered him. And so maybe in their mind they're saying, we're already offering you more than we could decide to keep you for. And of course, you wonder if you get to a point where, you're tagging a player who doesn't want to be there. At what point does that really cause a lot of problems in the locker room if a guy has no desire to be there? But at the same time, these players, they're not going to go out there and, play badly. That hurts their value if they do eventually end up on another team. And so that's why this situation is so interesting. It sounds like Brandon Aiyuk is doing everything he possibly can to try to force the 49ers' hand either to pay him or trade him away. And if I just had to make my prediction of what happens here, I don't think the 49ers are going to trade away Brandon Aiyuk. I feel like Aiyuk will accept a deal maybe the 49ers bump up a little and say, okay, we'll give you $27, $28 million before the season starts. But I think, if I had to guess, that a deal will get done before the season because Aiyuk really has no leverage. And the 49ers, no doubt, are better with Aiyuk on this roster. And so I think that it's best for the Niners to keep him around. And that's just sort of how I sort of see the situation playing out. But we'll keep an eye on this one. If you want more NFL content like this, feel free to subscribe down below. And I'll see you guys next time.